I never thought retirement would lead me here, standing in my own lake house at midnight, watching my daughter toast champagne with a real estate agent while my wife sobbed alone in the bedroom. But that's exactly where 32 years as a fire chief in Thunder Bay got me. The kind of instinct that makes you check smoke detectors twice, that makes you come home 3 hours early when something feels wrong. It was supposed to be Thanksgiving week. Margaret and I had spent decades building our life together. She taught second grade for 28 years while I worked my way up from rookie firefighter to chief. When I finally retired at 60 last spring, we thought we'd earned our peace. The lake house wasn't much when we bought it 25 years ago, just a rundown cabin on Lake Superior. But I'd rebuilt it with my own hands. Every deck board, every window frame. Margaret planted the garden, chose every paint color. It was supposed to be where our grandchildren would learn to fish, where we'd grow old watching the sunset over the water. I'd driven up from Thunder Bay on Tuesday evening, 3 days before Thanksgiving. The department had canceled my retirement party at the last minute, some budget meeting that couldn't be rescheduled. Fine by me. I hated being the center of attention anyway. Margaret had driven up Monday with our daughter Jessica and her husband Marcus, getting the place ready for the holiday. Our son Tyler was supposed to arrive Thursday with his wife and 2 kids. The drive took nearly 3 hours in the November darkness. I'd called Margaret twice, but got no answer. Not unusual. Cell service was spotty out there. But something gnawed at me. Call it 32 years of reading smoke patterns and knowing when a situation was about to flash over. I pulled into the gravel driveway around 10:30. The house was lit up like a Christmas tree. Odd. Margaret usually went to bed by 9. I grabbed my overnight bag from the truck and walked toward the front door, my boots crunching on frost-covered gravel. That's when I heard it. Laughter. Loud, celebratory laughter coming from the back deck, and underneath it, fainter. The sound of someone crying. I didn't go through the front door. Fire chiefs learn to assess situations from multiple angles. I walked around the side of the house, staying in the shadows. The deck wrapped around the back, overlooking the lake. 3 figures stood there, silhouetted against the porch light. Jessica, 32, her dark hair catching the light. Marcus, her husband of 4 years, tall and gesturing wildly with a champagne glass. And a man I didn't recognize, older, wearing an expensive suit despite the hour. To the new Lake Superior Resort and Spa, Marcus's voice carried in the cold November air. This place is going to make us a fortune. Prime waterfront property, you can't beat it. Your parents really won't be a problem? That was the stranger, sounding skeptical. My father's 60, Jessica said, and I heard something in her voice I'd never heard before. Coldness. They're both showing signs. Mom forgot to pay the utilities last month. Dad can't remember appointments. We've got documentation. The memory clinic appointment is set for Friday. Ice flooded my veins. Memory clinic? What the hell was she talking about? And the legal documents? The stranger pressed. Already, Marcus said smoothly. Power of attorney for health and finances. Once the cognitive assessment comes back showing decline, it's just a formality. We become their legal guardians. They move into that nice assisted living facility in Thunder Bay. We develop the property. Everyone wins. Except them, the stranger said. They won't even know the difference in a few years, Jessica said, and took a drink. This is for their own good. They shouldn't be living out here alone at their age. I'd run into burning buildings. I'd pulled people from car wrecks. I'd held the hands of dying colleagues, but nothing prepared me for hearing those words from my own daughter's mouth. I stepped onto the deck. Their age? I'm 60, Jessica, not 90. All 3 of them spun around. The champagne glasses froze in midair. Jessica's face went white. Dad. We weren't expecting you until Thursday. Clearly. I looked at each of them in turn. Someone want to explain what I just heard? Marcus recovered first. He always did. 4 years ago, when Jessica brought him home, I'd done my due diligence. Former sales executive, smooth talker, big dreams. He'd started 3 businesses, failed at all of them, but Jessica loved him, and I'd kept my concerns to myself. Now I was regretting that decision. Bob, good to see you. Marcus extended his hand. I didn't take it. We were just discussing some options for the property. Investment opportunities. Options for my property, I said, that I built. With my hands, while you were still in diapers. Dad, please. Jessica set down her glass. We need to talk. Mom's not doing well. Really? Because I just heard you say she's fine enough to be forced out of her home. She forgot to pay the utilities. Jessica's voice rose. The power was almost shut off. What if that had happened in winter? You could have frozen to death out here. I paid the utilities. 3 weeks ago. Online, like I do every month. I kept my voice level. 32 years of incident command. Never lose your cool. Try again. The stranger cleared his throat. Perhaps I should go. No. I turned to him. Who are you? Donald Breckenridge. Real estate development. He had the grace to look uncomfortable. Look, I didn't know this was. I'll leave you to your family discussion. He left fast, practically running to his car. I heard the engine start, saw headlights sweep across the trees. Marcus's jaw tightened. You're being unreasonable. We're trying to help you. Help me out of my home? You're 60 years old, Bob. How much longer can you maintain a place like this? The winters alone? I was pulling people from burning buildings 6 months ago, I said quietly. I think I can handle changing a furnace filter. It's not just the house. Jessica's eyes were red, and for a moment I saw my little girl again. Then she blinked, and the stranger was back. It's Mom. She's been confused, forgetful. Last week, she couldn't remember what day it was. It was Saturday. She knew exactly what day it was. She made a joke about it. She's in denial. And so are you. Marcus stepped closer. I didn't back up. We've been noticing signs for months. The missed bills, the confusion, the memory problems. We've already scheduled a cognitive assessment. Cancel it. We can't. We won't. Marcus's voice hardened. You might not see it, but we do. And when that assessment comes back showing what we know it will show, we'll have the legal authority to make decisions for both of you, for your own safety. That's when I heard it again, the crying, louder now, coming from inside the house. I pushed past them and went inside. The master bedroom was at the end of the hall. The door was closed, a strip of light showing underneath. Margaret? No answer, just crying. I opened the door. My wife sat on the edge of the bed, still in her clothes from earlier. Her face was blotchy, streaked with tears. When she looked up at me, I saw something that made my chest tighten. Fear. Bob, you're here. Why are you here? Party got canceled. What's wrong, love? Why are you crying? She stood up, unsteady, and I was at her side immediately. I don't know what's happening. Jessica gave me some papers to sign. Power of attorney, she said, for our protection. But I read them, and they're not. They're not what she said. She wants control of everything. The house, our accounts, our medical decisions. And when I said no, she got angry. She said, I'm not capable of understanding anymore, that I'm losing my mind. You're not losing anything. How do you know? Her voice broke. What if I am? What if she's right? I did forget what day it was last week, and I couldn't remember where I put my car keys yesterday. You made a joke about Saturday, and your car keys were in your coat pocket, where you always put them. I held her shoulders. Margaret, look at me. There is nothing wrong with you. Then why would Jessica say these things? That was the question, wasn't it? I helped Margaret sit back down, then walked to the bedroom door and locked it. I could hear voices in the living room, angry voices. Stay here, I told Margaret. I need to handle something. When I came back into the living room, Jessica and Marcus were huddled together, whispering. They broke apart when they saw me. She's not signing anything, I said. Dad, you're not thinking clearly. I'm thinking perfectly clearly. Clearer than I have in weeks, actually. I sat down in my armchair, the one I'd brought up from Thunder Bay when we retired. Let me guess. Marcus has financial problems. Probably gambling based on the tells I'm seeing. You're desperate. You looked at this property and saw dollar signs. So you concocted a scheme to have us declared incompetent, take control of our assets, and sell everything out from under us. Marcus's face flushed red. That's ridiculous. Is it? Because I just heard you planning exactly that on the deck. Lake Superior Resort and Spa. Nice touch. We're trying to save you from yourselves. Jessica's voice was shrill now. You're too old to be living out here. Too old to manage your own affairs. And if you can't see that, then maybe the assessment is exactly what you need. I felt something shift inside me. Some last hope that this was all a misunderstanding. Get out. Excuse me? Get out of my house, both of you. Now, Marcus laughed. Actually laughed. We're not going anywhere. In fact, we've got some documents for you to sign too. Transfer of property to family trust, durable power of attorney. All standard stuff for someone your age. I'm 60 years old, Marcus. Not senile. That's not what the doctor's report says. He pulled a folder from his jacket. Memory issues, confusion, inappropriate decision-making, all signs of early cognitive decline. We've been documenting everything. What doctor? I haven't seen a doctor. Dr. Raymond Chen, elder care specialist. We consulted with him last month about your decline. I stood up slowly. Let me see that. He handed it over, confident. I read through it. Professional letterhead, detailed observations, recommendations for immediate intervention. It looked legitimate. Except for one thing. This is dated October 15th. I was on a fishing trip with Tyler from October 10th to 20th. I wasn't even in the province. Try again. Marcus's face went blank for just a second, just long enough for me to see I'd hit a nerve. Must be a typo, he said smoothly. Must be fraud. I set the folder down. Last chance. Leave. Now. Or I call the police. On what grounds? Attempted theft. Fraud. Elder abuse. Take your pick. Jessica's face crumpled. Dad, please. We're not trying to hurt you. We're trying to help. Marcus and I. We're in trouble. Real trouble. He owes money. A lot of money. And these people, they're not nice people. We thought if we could just develop the property, flip it fast, we could pay them back and start over. Nobody has to get hurt. There it was. The truth, finally. So you were going to steal your mother's home, I said quietly. The home we built together. The place where you learn to swim. Where your children are supposed to learn to fish. You were going to drug your mother, forge documents, and sell it all to pay for your husband's gambling debts. We weren't going to drug anyone. I heard Margaret. She's barely coherent. What did you give her? Marcus shifted his weight. Just something to help her relax. She was getting hysterical about the papers. And there it was. Confirmation. I pulled out my phone. What are you doing? Jessica asked. Calling my son. Tyler's not coming until Thursday. He is now. I dialed. Tyler picked up on the second ring. Tyler, I need you at the lake house. Now. And bring your laptop. Dad? It's almost 11. What's going on? Your sister and her husband are trying to steal the house. I need your help. A pause. Then, I'll be there in 2 hours. Don't let them touch anything. I hung up. Jessica was crying now. Really crying. And for a moment I almost softened. Almost. Tyler's bringing evidence, I said, of everything you've done. And then we're going to the police. There's no evidence, Marcus said, but his voice wavered. You sure about that? Because Tyler's been worried about you two for months. He's been doing some checking, quietly. That was a bluff, but I watched Marcus's face and saw it land. He went pale. Dad, please, Jessica begged. If we don't pay back this money, they'll hurt Marcus. They've already made threats. His business partner, something happened to him. We're scared. Then you go to the police. You don't steal from your parents. We tried, they said without proof of the threats. There's nothing they can do. And Marcus's partner won't talk. He's too afraid. I looked at my daughter, really looked at her. When did she become this person? When did desperation twist her into someone who could drug her own mother? How much do you owe? I asked. $200,000, Marcus whispered. I sat back down. What? Casino that. I had a system. It was supposed to work. It did work. For a while. Then it didn't. And I kept trying to win it back. The people I borrowed from, they're not. They're not patient people. So you decided to solve your problem by destroying your wife's parents. We were going to put you in a nice facility, one of those retirement communities with activities and medical staff, and without asking us, without our consent. You were going to have us declared incompetent and lock us away so you could steal everything we've worked for. Margaret appeared in the doorway then, clutching the frame for support. Jessica? Tell me he's wrong. Tell me you wouldn't do that to us. Jessica couldn't meet her mother's eyes. Oh, baby, Margaret whispered, and I heard her heart break. The next 2 hours crawled by. I made coffee, strong and black. Margaret sat at the kitchen table, silent tears running down her face. Jessica and Marcus huddled on the couch, whispering. I sat in my chair, watching them both, my phone within reach. Marcus tried to leave once. I blocked the door. We're not prisoners, he said. You're not guests either. You stay until Tyler gets here. And then what? You'll have us arrested? Jessica's your daughter. Jessica drugged her mother and tried to steal our home. That changes things. Headlights swept through the windows at 1:30. Tyler came through the door like a storm, his wife Sarah right behind him. Dad, he hugged me hard. Are you okay? Is Mom? We're handling it. I nodded toward the couch. They're still here. Tyler looked at his sister. Something passed between them, something cold and final. Jess, what the hell? Stay out of this, Tyler. Stay out of you stealing Mom and Dad's house? I don't think so. He opened his laptop. I've been tracking you two for 3 months. Ever since I heard about Marcus's business troubles. Want to see what I found? Marcus stood up. You had no right. Sit down. Tyler's voice could cut glass. Casino records. $247,000 in losses over 18 months. Money borrowed from known loan sharks. Threats documented in your email. 3 previous attempts to borrow from family, all declined. And this, he turned the laptop around. The fake Dr. Chen, who is actually Dr. Raymond Chen, chiropractor, practicing in Winnipeg, who I called, who said he's never heard of either of you, and is very interested in who's using his letterhead for fraud. Jessica made a sound like a wounded animal. And there's more, Tyler continued. The memory clinic you booked for Mom doesn't exist. The elder care attorney Marcus mentioned. Hired actor, works out of Toronto. Specializes in corporate video production. I've got his contact info and the payment from Marcus's account. The incident reports about Mom's confusion. I pulled the actual utility bills. They've been paid on time for 3 years straight, and the power of attorney documents. I had a real lawyer look at them. They're not just aggressive, they're illegal in Ontario. Anyone signing them would effectively be signing away all their rights with no recourse. How did you get all this? Marcus demanded. I'm a database analyst for the provincial government. I know how to find information. Tyler closed the laptop. And I know how to package it for the police. We were desperate, Jessica whispered. You were criminal, Tyler shot back. There's a difference. If Marcus was in danger, there were a dozen legal ways to handle it. You chose this. Tyler, please, Jessica stood up. He's my husband. I love him. I couldn't let anything happen to him. So you were going to let something happen to Mom and Dad instead? Silence. The kind that settles over a house when everyone realizes there's no way back from here. I stood up. I'm calling the police. Wait. Marcus held up his hand. Just wait. What if we leave? Right now, we'll disappear. Go somewhere far away. You'll never hear from us again. And the people you owe? I asked. I'll figure something out. They'll come looking. Then I'll deal with it. Just don't call the police. Please. Jessica will lose her real estate license. She'll have a criminal record. Her life will be over. She should have thought of that before she drugged my wife. Margaret spoke then, her voice small and broken. What did you give me? Jessica looked at the floor. Sleeping pills. Ground up in your tea. You were so upset about the papers, and Marcus said, if you just slept for a while, we could forge my signature. Margaret finished. While I was unconscious. We wouldn't have had to. If you'd just listened to reason. Reason? Margaret stood up, and I saw steel in her spine I hadn't seen in hours. Reason would have been talking to us, asking for help, not drugging me and stealing our home. You're my daughter. I would have done anything to help you. Anything. But you didn't trust me enough to even ask. Jessica dissolved into tears. Real ones this time, not manipulative ones. But I was past caring. I picked up my phone and dialed 911. I need to report an attempted theft and elder abuse. Marcus lunged for me. Tyler intercepted him, wrestling him back onto the couch. Sarah pulled out her phone and started recording. "Don't move," Tyler said. "Sarah's got video now. Everything you do is evidence." The OPP officer arrived 45 minutes later. Provincial police served this area, based out of Nipigon. Officer Patricia Devereaux was in her 40s. No nonsense, with the kind of eyes that had seen everything twice. She took statements from all of us separately, looked at Tyler's evidence, examined the fake documents, called in to her supervisor. By 4 in the morning, Marcus was in handcuffs. "Mr. Chen, you're under arrest for fraud, attempted theft, and administering a noxious substance. You have the right to remain silent." Jessica wasn't arrested. Not yet, but Officer Devereaux was clear. "You're not off the hook, Miss Chen. We'll be investigating. I strongly suggest you get a lawyer." They took Marcus away. Jessica sat at our kitchen table, alone, destroyed. "You should go," Margaret said quietly. "Mom, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry." "I know. But you still need to go." Jessica left. We heard her car start, heard the gravel crunch as she drove away into the November darkness. Tyler stayed. He and Sarah made up the guest room, and the four of us sat watching the sun rise over Lake Superior. "I never wanted this," I said. "I just wanted to grow old in peace." "I know, Dad." Tyler put his hand on my shoulder. "But we'll get through it. We'll protect what you built." The next weeks were a blur. Marcus was formally charged with fraud, identity theft, attempted theft, and drugging Margaret. Jessica wasn't charged, but the real estate board opened an investigation. Her license was suspended pending the outcome. The fake Dr. Chen in Winnipeg was furious about his identity being used and threatened his own lawsuit. The actor in Toronto cooperated fully with police in exchange for immunity. He'd been hired for what he thought was a corporate training video, had no idea he was participating in fraud. The people Marcus owed money to never materialized. Tyler dug deeper and found that most of the debt was to a legitimate casino, not loan sharks. The threats were real, but they were legal threats. Lawsuits, wage garnishment, bankruptcy. Scary but not violent. Marcus had exaggerated to manipulate Jessica. That might have been the worst part. Jessica had destroyed her relationship with us for a fiction. Marcus had lied about the danger to push her into the scheme. The trial was in January. I testified. Margaret testified. Tyler presented his evidence. The prosecutor was thorough, and Marcus's lawyer couldn't overcome the sheer volume of documentation, proving deliberate fraud. Marcus was sentenced to 5 years in federal prison, no parole for at least 3. The judge was harsh, citing the particular vulnerability of elderly victims and the betrayal of family trust. Jessica didn't go to prison, but her consequences were real. She lost her real estate license permanently. She filed for divorce. And at the prosecutor's request, as part of a restorative justice component, she had to make a public apology. It happened at the Thunder Bay Town Hall in February, a community meeting about elder abuse prevention. Margaret and I sat in the front row. Jessica stood at the podium, shaking. "My name is Jessica Harrison Chen," she began. "And 6 months ago I drugged my mother and attempted to steal my parents' home to pay my husband's gambling debts." The room was silent, 100 pairs of eyes on her. I told myself I was helping them, that they were too old, too confused, that they needed me to make decisions for them. But the truth is, I needed their home. I needed their money. And instead of asking for help like a decent person, I tried to destroy them. Her voice broke. "My father is 60 years old. He served this community for 32 years as a firefighter in chief. He's pulled people from burning buildings, saved lives, and I treated him like he was incompetent. My mother taught second grade for 28 years. She shaped hundreds of children's lives, and I drugged her." Tears streamed down her face. "I can't undo what I did. I can't take back the betrayal. But I can stand here and tell you that elder abuse doesn't just happen to strangers. It happens in families. It happens when people get desperate and make terrible choices. And it destroys everything." She looked directly at us. "Mom, Dad, I know you can't forgive me. I know I broke something that can't be fixed. I just want you to know that I see what I did. I understand what I destroyed. And I will spend the rest of my life trying to be better than the person I was that night. She stepped down. There was no applause, just silence. Heavy, judgmental silence. We didn't speak to her afterward. We went home to our apartment in Thunder Bay, the place we'd moved to for the winter. The lake house was winterized, waiting for spring. Margaret cried that night. Not for Jessica's pain, but for what we'd lost. She was our daughter, Margaret whispered. How did we not see it coming? We trusted her, I said. That's not a failure. That's what parents do. Should we forgive her? I don't know. Maybe someday. But not today. Tyler and Sarah came for dinner twice a week. Their kids, 8 and 6, filled our apartment with noise and life. We taught them to play cards, read them stories, started planning summer at the lake house. In March, a letter arrived. From Jessica. I held it for a long time, feeling the weight of it. Aren't you going to open it? Margaret asked. I looked at my wife. She'd aged in the months since that November night. We both had, but she was still my Margaret, still the woman I'd built a life with. No, I said. Not today. Maybe not ever. That weekend, Tyler drove us back up to the lake house. The ice was starting to break up on Lake Superior. Spring was coming. We walked out onto the deck I'd built, the deck where I'd heard my daughter plot against us. We could sell, Margaret said quietly. Start fresh somewhere else. No, I put my arm around her. We built this. With love and work and time. No one takes that from us. Not Jessica, not Marcus. No one. Tyler came out with his kids. They were bundled up against the March wind, excited to explore. Can we go down to the beach, Grandpa? My granddaughter asked. Yes, you can. Stay where I can see you. They ran off, laughing. Tyler stayed with us on the deck. Jessica's been trying to reach me, he said. Wants to talk. That's your choice, I told him. She's your sister. I won't tell you what to do. What would you do? I watched my grandchildren at the water's edge, watched the sun hit the waves. I don't know, son. I honestly don't know. Maybe someday I'll be able to forgive her. Maybe I'll be able to see her as my daughter again instead of the person who tried to destroy us. But right now I just want to enjoy what I've got. This house, your mother, you and your family. That's enough. Margaret leaned against me. We survived, she said. We did. Will we be okay? I looked at the house behind us. The garden Margaret would plant in May. The dock where I'd teach my grandchildren to fish. The bedroom where we'd watch more sunsets. Yeah, I said, we'll be okay. Thanksgiving came around again. Nearly a year since that November night. Tyler and Sarah and the kids came up for the weekend. We cooked turkey, made all of Margaret's traditional sides. The kids helped make pumpkin pie and got flour everywhere. After dinner, while the kids played board games, Tyler showed me his phone. Jessica sent this. It was a photo. Jessica, thinner, tired-looking, working at what looked like a coffee shop. The caption read, 9 months sober, therapy 3 times a week, living with the consequences of my choices. I hope you're all well. Are you going to respond? I asked. I don't know. Should I? Margaret came over and looked at the photo. Something passed across her face. Pain, grief, and maybe, just maybe, the smallest hint of something else. That's between you and your sister, she said, but Tyler? Don't let what she did poison your relationship with her. She made terrible choices. She hurt us deeply. But she's still your sister. And maybe, someday, she'll be someone we can know again. Not today, though, I said. No. Margaret squeezed my hand. Not today. That night, after everyone had gone to bed, I stood on the deck one more time. The November air was cold, just like it had been a year ago. But everything else was different. I'd learned something that night when I came home early. I'd learned that the people you love most can hurt you deepest. That trust is fragile. That age doesn't make you vulnerable. Trusting the wrong people does. But I'd also learned that you can survive betrayal. That you can set boundaries and still love someone from a distance. That forgiveness doesn't mean reconciliation. That the life you build with your own hands can't be taken unless you let it go. The lake stretched out before me, dark and endless. Margaret came out and wrapped a blanket around both of us. What are you thinking about? She asked. How lucky I am, I said. Despite everything. How lucky I am. She kissed my cheek. Me too. We stood there for a while, watching the stars reflect on the water, and for the first time in a year, I felt peace. The house was still ours. The life we'd built was still ours. And whatever Jessica became, whatever path she walked, it would be hers alone. We'd protected what mattered. We'd survived. And sometimes that's enough.